Hey everyone, and welcome to this new video. Today, as promised, we're going to take a look at Dehancer Photo for Capture One. In the previous video, we already checked out the DaVinci version and all the video features, but today it's going to be all about photography and how easy, and not just how easy, but also how authentic the film looks are that we're getting here with Dehancer Photo in Capture One. So let's jump right into it. So these are some photos that I shot in the Eastern Sierra, and I actually didn't take a lot of photos that trip. We're mainly just fishing and hanging out. But I figured because most of the stuff I do is wildlife, related. But I think that these photos give you a better representation of all the different features that Dehancer actually offers. So just to get started, let's check out this photo I took off the car just driving by. It's not like the prettiest photo, but I think it works very well just to check out the features and see how Dehancer Photo works. So the way Dehancer is processing your images is you can't just edit the raw photos. So what happens if you actually right click and then you click on edit with and then in Dehancer Lightroom Plugin. It says Lightroom because the Lightroom version is actually also the Capture One version, but I guess because more people use Lightroom for whatever reason, they named it the Lightroom version. But anyway, so if we click on the Lightroom plugin, then it is actually creating a TIFF image. So Dehancer will convert your raw image into a TIFF image, and that also goes for JPEGs or any other format that you're working with. And this is actually the first downside of the plugin, in my opinion, because you can only process one image at a time. So if you want to work with a big batch, or for me example, if I have to deliver a bunch of photos for, let's say, a client, I'm able to save presets, and we're going to check that out in just a minute, but I'm not going to be able to select, like, let's say 100 photos and apply the same preset at once. That's not an issue for you, it doesn't matter, but yeah, just that's like the first kind of, like, I guess, downside, you could say, of this plugin. Also, before you import your photos into Dehancer, just make sure that you do things such as white balancing, cropping your image, and apply like basic adjustments. Actually, I think what Dehancer recommends is to give it as much dynamic range as possible. So what I did here is I manually actually went down with the contrast a little bit, because sometimes these images, when they get a little bit like mushy or whatever the right wording is, that could be because you applied too much contrast in the first place before importing it to Dehancer, just to keep that in mind. So just to give you a quick overview over the interface, up here you have your profiles as well as your presets. So these are already pre-made presets that you could pretty much just click on and use. You can also save your own presets if that's something you want to do. And then up here we have our film profiles. I guess with this one you can close the left side if you want some more real estate for your photo. And here you can restore it to the last few settings, reset all settings to default, and pretty much Command Z, go one step back or go one step forward, redoing the last step. And then, yeah, here on the right side you have your additional parameters you can play around with, and you actually don't have to use a film profile. You can deselect film profile up here if you want to do your basic adjustments and edits in Capture One, or you're using a look there, or like a style as they call it in Capture One, and then you just want to apply such things as halation or the bloom effect or grain or vignetting, whatever it is. You could totally do that as well. So now in the next step, let's just see what we could do with this image. Let's play around with it, have some fun. Because actually that's one of the first things I found out about this. It is a lot of fun to play with, and I believe that the film simulations, the film looks are actually very, very nice. And I already went through all the films, so I know which one I like the most. I really like the Cinestill 800 tungsten, but for this one we're gonna go with the one up here, and I already really like the way the colors turn out here. But this is obviously just the basic film profile, and now we go on the right side here and we have so many options to play around with and really customize this photo. So let's start off with the first one. So if we're here on the source, this is pretty much something that I did previously in Capture One. You have some exposure compensation, you can adjust the color temperature, which is why I said do the white balance before importing the photo. Same here, you have some color tint, as well as some defringing, which is pretty much chromatic aberration, which is also something I rather do within Capture One. So I can uncheck this because I really don't use it. Now it gets more interesting. So we have the thing film developer. So here we can just pretty much give it some more contrast boost or do some gamma correction, some color boost as well, but I'm also not gonna mess around with that. Here we have such things as film compression, so we can play around with the white point here and see what that does. So it's especially visible up here in the highlights and the clouds, how that's affecting the image. And then with the tonal range, the same thing, it's affecting the entire image globally. And I actually like the default settings, so I'm gonna uncheck that one as well. So now here, expand, this is where we can adjust the black and the white points. So I kind of like that bit of a washed out look. So I'm gonna go down with the black point actually, just like that. And then the white point, I'm just gonna adjust it slightly as well. And just by clicking the preview button on the top right, you can toggle on and off your preview so you get the original image and then any settings or any adjustments that you've applied. So let's check the preview on because I want to see what I'm doing. And now we're getting into the really interesting parts. So here we have print profiles. So for those of you not familiar, just to walk you through this very quickly. So you have the film that you're shooting on, which has a certain profile, a certain look. And then especially when we're talking about motion pictures or obviously printing photos even, there is a way how they print that film onto a film that you're then obviously watching in a movie theater or doing an actual physical like print. So there's sort of a two-look layering, I guess, that's going on there. And I personally really like the Kodak 2383, so I'm gonna go with that one. And then once again, you can here play around, for example, with the saturation. This is gonna affect the entire image globally. So, just something to be aware of. And then color density, tonal contrast, as well as exposure. So there's even more things you can adjust and see how that's going to affect your image overall. Once again, this is something I don't really play around with too much, so I'll leave it at that. So the next thing we're going to look at is the color head, and the color head is something that's actually quite interesting. So if you're developing film, obviously the light that you're using to develop it should be just neutral, so it doesn't affect the colors of the film. However, the color head idea is that you're adding certain colors that say like a magenta, for example, to your light. So it just pretty much messes with the light that's being used to develop the film, and that then once again has an effect to the look of the image. So, so if we toggle this on, there is no much happening because we haven't really played around with the sliders here. But you can see I can easily add like a sort of green tint, a green shift to it, or like more of a magenta. I actually like the greenish color tint, so it actually removes most of the magenta here from the street and everything. So I'll just leave that on. And now we're going to look at the next section, which is film grain, and this is obviously one of my favorites because I love how easy, convenient it is to get some really amazing and especially very customizable grain. So if we just check that off, you can see obviously all the grain is gone, but if we check it on, you can not only have obviously size and amount, which is kind of standard, I guess, if you're applying grain, but also we have the grain resolution and some more sliders such as shadows, midtones, and highlights. So if we zoom in here and let's just, for example, check out the shadows, which would be probably like the car, we can see that if we drag that down, that there's hardly any grain being applied to the shadow areas, but we still get all the grain and the highlights up here in the sky. Versus obviously dragging that up, we can see we get a lot more grain here in the shadows. Same example goes for the highlights. If we just check out this cloud section here and we drag down the highlights tab, you can see the grain is getting a lot like slimmer, finer, I guess. Especially also when we go down with the midtones, because that would be like pretty much all this area here. And then if we drag up the highlights, you see now here in the whites, you're really getting strong grain. So you can really just customize your grain like crazy, which is something I really like. You can even choose the film type, whether it's negative or positive. That'll also gonna have an effect on the grain. So Dehancer Photo just makes it really easy, really convenient, and really fun to really customize your photos in a very filmic and stylistic way, which I don't know, it's just something I enjoy doing. So definitely had a lot of fun with this so far. And then we're gonna come to some of my favorite features when it comes to shooting film and being able to apply that on a digital photo that easily was huge for me. And that's actually probably one of my favorite features when it comes to Dehancer Photo. So, and this is actually also one of the reasons why I chose the car, because I think that there, it really it's really nice to see. Meaning I chose the car photo as an example photo for this video. So if we check on halation, this is actually something very unique to film, and just the way film behaves when it comes to highlight and highlight exposure. So if we zoom in here and we actually check on the mask mode, because then you can see obviously which part of the film are actually being affected. So right now you can see here the outlines, or not even the outlines, but anywhere where we have a strong reflection from the chrome of the car, as you can see here, or even on the front or here on the side, this is where it really shows, right? So especially if we amplify it, which I really want to just overdo this one. So let's amplify it to 100% and make it a strong impact, and then mask mode, and you can see here how we're really getting that nice glow, especially that in any high contrast areas, that's where it's going to be very visible. So now we added these, and I can toggle this on and off again. Now we added the halation to the image, which is something I really like. Add a bit of smoothness here, some local diffusion, and a bit smoother even, some global diffusion as well, so it spills a bit more over. And then this is actually something I think looks really, really cool. And once again, toggle this on and off to see the before and the after. And the next effect is going to be bloom. Bloom is a bit similar to halation, but you'll see the difference in a minute. If I check this on and I apply it, I actually do want to apply it to most of the highlights, and then amplify it a lot as well. And you can see just by me playing around with the slider here, you can see the effect it has on the image. So it pretty much takes all the highlights, especially in high contrast areas, and just gives it that bloom, a glow effect almost, which I think looks just so nice. And I'm gonna go up with the impact as well. We can check out the mask mode, so we can see pretty much here all around the car how we're getting this effect. And let's not limit it. Let's go up with the details and disable the mask mode. And yeah, I think here you can see the before and the after. It just gives it this very nice smooth glow to all the highlights, and I absolutely love that. And then for the last part, we have some vignetting. Of course, let's toggle that on, and that's kind of standard, I guess. Vignetting, let's increase it a little bit, and yeah. And this is pretty much all when it comes to additional adjustments. Actually, one thing you can do here, and something I forgot mentioning with the film, you have the push-pull slider here. Just quickly about the whole push-pull thing is, if we compare it to digital, when we overexpose or underexpose a digital image, it's either blown out or obviously underexposed, and that's it. However, with film, if you overexpose it, there's still such thing as obviously just being overexposed and in general, but at the same time the film behaves different too. So meaning things like color tint shift, contrast, or just the colors in general, they can change, or they will change if you over or underexpose your film. So I guess what they did here is for each of the different film profiles, they also added an over and an underexposed film. And then you pretty much can push and pull, dragging to one side or the other, in order to not only change the exposure, but mostly actually, much more than that, you're actually changing the look of the film, as if you shot this film overexposed or underexposed. So let's actually do that, and let's see what it does to our image. So as we can see here, the colors shift a little bit if we pull it, and if we push it to the other side, it does the same thing. And I actually kind of like it right here. Okay, so I'm glad we talked about this, so this is nice. And then if you're happy with anything, with your settings, with your work, if you're happy, then all you do is you click OK up here, and then all the settings are going to be applied to your TIFF image, which you can then export within Capture One. So I actually like where this is going. Let's just check the preview once more. So this was our before, and this is our after. So you can see huge difference, and definitely gave it a pretty nice film and very authentic film look, in my opinion. And once again, this was very quick, so you can probably do these adjustments within Capture One. With the whole bloom and halation effect, it's going to be much more difficult. I definitely see how this plugin is extremely useful for anybody that's trying to pull off an authentic film look, for sure. I'm actually really impressed by it. And so with the film grain, I actually might want to just increase it a little bit because I want to get a bit more grain. I think I like that. Okay, and let's just hit OK. And now you can see here we have obviously still a raw photo, which is not, you know, nothing changed. But then we have our TIFF image here, and we can just see all the beauty that we added here. And yeah, I really like how it turned out. And now we could have technically saved all that as a preset within Dehancer Photo and just pretty much copy pasted it to the next one. But since the next photo that we're going to be looking at is more of a landscape shot, let's not do that. Let's just come up with a different look and start all over again just because it was so much fun. All right, so for the next photo, let's just browse through a couple up here. This one friend of mine shot, I was trying way too hard to look like a cowboy. I think I like this one. I already applied an adjustment layer. As you can see here, all that does, let me hit M to show you the mask. Yeah, pretty much just a very simple mask, simply to bring a little bit of the details back to the foreground, because before that it was just dark. And other than that, I pretty much just left everything as it is. I think what I will do, however, I'll decrease the contrast even more so, just to have a bit more dynamic range in the entire image. So that's the global effect. And then the same thing, right click, edit with Dehancer Lightroom Plugin. But yeah, so same thing. It's loading all of our presets and all the profiles. Instead of using a preset, which I think there's a lot of pretty cool presets, but instead of using one, let's just come up with our own once again. What you can also do is you can, you know, check out the presets and find one that you already kind of like, and then just use it and check and uncheck on the right side certain things that you don't like about the presets. So let's say if you don't like the, you know, let's say the grain on this one, you can just uncheck it or obviously adjust it. So you can obviously adjust all the presets here, and all these presets that came with the Dehancer film as well as the profiles is something that you actually download after installing the program. So they don't come with the program, or they do, but you have to externally download them, which I guess is good, because if they want to come up with more presets or with more profiles, then you know, that's very easy. And probably there's going to be more presets and film profiles being added going forward, which obviously that's just speculation, but it would make sense. And then, so this time, once again, I'm actually going to go with a slide film, or like a, you know, color positive film. Let's just go through and see which one. I actually really like the Fujichrome Velvia. It's one of my favorite films. So I think that's what we're going with for this one. And then once again, on the right side here, I'm going to go over all the individual parameters we can play with, and because I really actually already like where this image is. And just by checking and unchecking all these boxes, we can actually see if there are certain things that we like to add or not. This one, I do like the print profile, but for sure I'm going to have to go up with the exposure, because I don't want to lose all the details here in the foreground. And yeah, this is definitely something I really like. Same with the color head. I actually just might want to add a bit of green just because I like that look. And with the foam grain, same thing. I think I want to go with a bit larger size, not too much. I just want to have a little bit of more like structure and clarity in the photo. And halation, for sure, we're gonna do that. So let's check out the mask mode. I believe that most of the halation is gonna be happening here in the high contrast area where the mountain hits the sky. So let's check out mask mode and let's amplify it, and let's have a larger impact, larger amplification. And yes, you can see right here at the outline of the mountains, this is where we're gonna have the largest effect. So let's add some local diffusion, some global diffusion, and maybe make it a bit smoother as well. And check off the mask mode, and yes, you can see we're getting this really nice glow over the edge of the mountains, which I love. Okay. And then we're going to do the same with the bloom. Let's check on the mask mode. Right now we can hardly see anything, but for sure if we amplify it, there it comes. And then same with the impact, we're going to just amplify that as well. Details is fine. Limiter, we don't really want that. Let's get it down and then uncheck the mask mode, because sometimes also I feel like if you're working with the mask mode, it's kind of important to check it and uncheck it, just so you see the actual effect it has on the image, obviously. So let's check bloom on and off just to see. But yeah, it might be a little over, honestly. I think it's a bit too much, so let's reduce the impact. But yeah, other than that, I really like it. I love the soft glow that it gives, and maybe we can even go back to the halation and have a bit of a less hard impact here. I think this is something I really like. And then vignetting, we could add a little bit more for sure. And now let's check out the preview. So this was our original image, and this is what we came up with literally within, what was it, like a minute, 2 minutes? I'm not sure. Depends on how I edit this. No, but seriously, it was literally just like, took us, what, a minute or two? Really, really cool and really powerful tool, in my opinion. And then, yeah, if we hit OK, we get, thrown back into Capture One, and we're gonna have our TIFF image up here. And then all that's left to do is to hit export. And there you have it. So everyone, this is it for this little tutorial / review on the Dehancer Photo Plugin. I was, first of all, really amazed by the results. It was just so much fun to play around with. Probably gonna go through a lot of old libraries and re-edit and revisit a lot of my photos just to see what effects and what kind of things I can pull from these images with this new plugin. Just on the downside, I would say the fact that you can't add photos at a bulk, so I can't, apply the presets to a batch of images. So I have to, once again, open every image individually. Other than that, it didn't break down, like no glitches or whatever. It worked very smooth, installation was very easy. Love the results I'm getting, and overall, really, really happy with this. I think from a price point, I think this one's at $199 if I'm not wrong. If I'm wrong, you're gonna see a different number in here now. But I think it's definitely worth the price, because I have not ever found another solution that makes it so easy to pull off these authentic film looks, especially with all the parameters that you're having here. It's a huge time saver, even if you know how to pull it off within Capture One. I think it just saves you a tremendous amount of time. And yeah, overall, really happy with it. So I can definitely give you a big thumbs up for this one. If you do decide to pick up on the plugin, then I actually have a code for you where you would save 10%. And I get a 10% commission, so we both win. I really appreciate you taking the time watching this. I'm trying to elevate your photo game, and I would say I'll see you in the next video. All right, have a good one, all the best. Appreciate you watching, and bye-bye.